A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith on the same level, if not better than Puka Nacua.
Well, they are. They are individually. But this offense is not. And part of it is just the way they play.
We got Mike Gill in the green room. Let's bring him up right now. He joins us here on Birds 365. Mike joins us here. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him at 97.3 ESPN down the shore, 97.5 The Fanatic on the weekends. Mike, welcome into the program, my friend. How you doing on this Wednesday morning? As usual, Mike, a lot to talk about in Eagle Land.
Yeah, I even like the baseball conversation. The dreaded pitch count bites you again. Live by the pitch count. It'll eventually bite you.
Of all the, as an old school baseball fan that doesn't necessarily like the modern game as much, at least, that's the thing that frustrates me the most. And then when you get to the playoffs, Mike, and we'll get back to the Eagles, obviously, but, as a Yankee guy, I'm looking at that game, and Fried goes into the seventh inning. So he's over the magic 100 pitch mark, which your arm's going to fall off. And he gets the first batter. They let him have the first batter. That's where I shift from the regular season to postseason baseball. I'm not taking him out until he puts somebody on base. If he gets somebody on base,
couldn't
all right.
Believe, Boston said, we just saw what happened. We're throwing Crochet back out there. I was surprised they pulled him when they pulled him to bring in Chapman to get a 4-out save because he started to get up in the pitch count. But I hate pitch counts. I during the regular season, whatever, those games are people go crazy because you pull these guys out. I get it, but not in October, man. You go. Well, especially when your bullpen is the Yankees bullpen.
Yeah. Your sentiment has to change in the postseason. In the regular season, I don't care. And really, people kill the managers just like they kill the coach because they don't want to blame the players. You build your team in a certain way. Weaver's supposed to have the seventh inning. And by the way, because he failed at the eighth inning, Williams has the eighth inning because he failed at being the closer. And then they had to acquire a closer. So you got question mark. Yeah. But that's how you built the team. That's how you got to go. And the guy doesn't perform. And the manager looks like shit.
Yeah, well, they are, as I said, they are, tied to these pitch counts. And there is a number where they're like, okay, I can't let you go any further just because of we don't want you to get hurt. Now, and those wild card teams, I know we'll get into the Eagles stuff here in a second, but those wild card teams, this is where you're at the disadvantage, where you need that guy to come back and pitch on Saturday, hopefully, for you to be able to compete. And if he pitches 110 pitches today, is he able to get you back to the beginning? That's where the amount of pitches these guys throw eventually. Now, they might be able to win a division series, but can you get through the championship series and then the World Series with those guys piling up the pitches? And it's not that they can't do it. It's that they don't do it all year. And now you're saying,
you got to build them up. Yeah. I mean, how long did Nolan Ryan pitch? What was it? 20.
Hey, let me tell you, this bad boy threw 180 a week, 180 a day. 180 a game. I was rocking and rolling.
Yeah. I believe there's something to if you build yourself up to it, you're going to be fine. But but it is what it is. Sports science, a lot of ways. You see it in football as well. We'll bring it back to the Eagles, and we got bigger things to talk about. But you see it all over football. One of the Eagles, current Eagles, and I said it's just softer now. The guys used to play through stuff now. You get hurt. All right, we're going to sit you down. We're going to sit you down in training camp. We're going to sit you down. Same thing. Basketball, same thing. Minutes, game management.
See it in football right now. You're seeing it in football right now. The product is just terrible. It's terrible all over the place. These guys aren't ready. They're making mistakes. They're lined up in the wrong spots. It's a bad product, and how do you change it? How do you get back to where it was? You don't. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. These teams aren't going to do 2-a-days in the middle of the summer anymore. That's just not happening. And the sad part is the players of today are content with this product. They're happy that this is their product. They think this is a product that is, we talk about Trey Turner won the batting title. You hit 300. That's shit. The fact that you hit 300 and are the best hitter in the league. I said, every batting coach out there that's teaching people how to hit should be embarrassed that this is the game that you've given us. Same with football, that this is the product that we get stuck with because of how everything has turned into.
I've been saying it for years. You know, Mike, I've been saying that for years, but people love it. They don't turn it off. So the NFL.
We had this discussion, and I had you on Monday, and I kind of I hinted at it a little bit. My buddy's telling me if the Eagles don't get more entertaining, they're in the entertainment business. I said, that building will be filled every game. They will never not sell out Lincoln Financial Field for the rest of our lifetimes. And he's like, well, not if they keep playing this kind of offense. People are going to start their
Are you kidding me? That's what I said on your show. They've won 20 or 21 games. You think these people aren't showing up? That's nuts.
Listen. Well, it's about entertaining. And they're this product. I said, dude, they could run the push up and down the field, and people will fill that building up. They could take a knee the whole game and win 3-0. So people can pay to boo them. They will never not sell. I said 0-17, and you pushed back on me, and I said they might have to go 0-17 for 3 straight years before people finally said, "All right, this is enough."
Yeah,
I said, I don't think Nick Sirianni sits down and says, where is entertainment on my game? He's got a hard enough time figuring out what the role of this offense is and what the identity of the offense is before he starts putting entertainment in the playbook each week.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. And we brought that up before you came on. I thought that was a great quote by Nick. And it's 100% right from his purview. And again, I give credit to Jeffrey Lurie for setting it up that way. Like maybe Brian Schottenheimer's got to deal with more of the entertainment value down in Dallas. So I think Jeffrey Lurie, that's his purview. That's Don Smolensky's purview. The business part of it, entertainment part of it. It's not Nick's, man. He's out there to win games, and I think the Eagles do it the right way, but there's always something. And A.J. Brown, it's this week, not the first time. Probably won't be the last time. The problem to me is, Mike, that I want to get your thoughts on how AJ handled it, number one. Yeah. But then after that, it's like, I think the only difference between this year and last year is you haven't had the outlier games yet. You sort of had it in the second half against the Rams, first half, but not a full game. You had the Pittsburgh game. You have these games where you look great offensively. You haven't really had that yet, but in theory, it should be coming. Or are you concerned that it's not coming? It's just that bad.
All right. So last week he had 10 catches against the Rams for 100+ yards and a touchdown. 10 targets, I should say. He had 9 targets last week. They just didn't.
Garbage targets, but yes, 9 targets.
9, but 10 targets the week before. So the targets were almost identical. And the week before that, he had 8 targets. So the targets are in the same range. It's why are they not fulfilling the target in the game against Kansas City and the game against Tampa? The first week against Dallas, he only had the 1 target. He made the catch. But why did he get 8? Why did he get 9? And then 1 week he got 10 and went off. Is that a AJ? Is that a Jalen? Is that a different? Because everyone's saying he's running the same routes. Well, if you ran the same routes, you should have similar fruition here. So that's why it's a little bizarre to me that 1 week he had 10 targets and 100 yards. The next week he had 9 targets, but only had 7 yards. There's some disconnect at what's happening in there. Now, yesterday we went back. AJ was on a podcast way back at the Super Bowl. And many people probably remember this, but he mentioned after they won the Super Bowl that he was unfulfilled by winning.
I brought that up. Yeah.
Right. And we played this audio yesterday, and it's really crazy to hear him. Like he said, I don't play for money or clothes or stats or any of that. It's about the grind.
Yeah, well, it's about, and he said dominating the opponent also.
Like if you don't get excited about winning a Super Bowl, how are you fulfilled by winning a regular season game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in September, and you walk out of that game with 2 catches. Now, he said it's not about the stats, but I think it is more him saying, if we're going to win, I want to contribute to the win. I don't want to just grind all week and then waste my time and not be a part of the game. If I'm going to go, because it's not about the win, it's about contributing. And that's the word that Sirianni used. He wants to contribute to the wins. He wants to contribute. He didn't say to the wins, but he wants to contribute. So this is the guy who's saying, I'm not flying to Tampa to take away time from my family if I'm not going to contribute, whether we win or lose. That's how I read it.
How much of an impact does it have moving forward, do you think? I don't
Not
think it's
much.
You don't think so?
Not much. No, we saw this last year. I mean, listen, Brandon Graham came out. They had friction between the two. They had their best game of the season the next week. I know, John, I was a little surprised that your take was that for the first time, and maybe you're right. I don't know, but we've seen AJ. I think tomorrow or today, whenever he talks, he's going to flash that smile and everything's going to be okay. He just goes through these. He's not even that much of a diva wide receiver next to these guys. No. Like, if you get this once a year from him and you got it out of the way in September, I think that's a win for us.
Well, one of the things I thought, was a mistake was the way he handled it. After the game, he didn't talk to reporters, which is fine. I mean, it wasn't the
anytime you post on social media and make it ambiguous.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. And if you look at the Bible verse, it's like you did the exact opposite in the modern era. Like, where do young people go? Social media. You got 4 million views a couple days ago on that tweet. That's more than most TV shows get today. So you're not receding. You're doing the exact opposite. You're going to the largest public square there is. It might not be literal like it was in the old days when you would do push-ups in your driveway, but it's the largest public square there is where the most people will see it. So that part of it, I don't agree with how AJ handled it. And maybe you're right, Mike. Maybe he shows up today and he completely does a 180. But yeah, my immediate thoughts were, and I've talked to AJ a lot over the years. My immediate thoughts was this one's a little bit different.
The other part of the thing that AJ talked about in this podcast was, he had seen champions, drinking and smoking cigars. And he's like, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any of that stuff. So he doesn't know how to feel fulfilled by accomplishing his goal. Like when people accomplish a goal, they celebrate, generally with maybe a cocktail or a cigar or some kind of mind-altering situation. And he's saying, I won this Super Bowl and I'm in the same state.
Well, that's, I compare it. I'll go back to my Yankee fandom. That's the only fandom I have left, Mike. Partially because I've never really covered baseball. It's the only sport I haven't covered on a consistent basis. So I never got, once you get into it, it's like, but so when I was younger, I would live and die. I'd celebrate the championships and when they would lose, you're upset and all the fan stuff. And now I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm kind of pissed off about that game last night.
Yeah.
But that's it. 10 minutes up. I got real shit to do. I was on the phone with somebody about this bullshit with the Eagles for an hour and a half. It's like there's no fulfillment if they win, other than 5 seconds of, hey, that was pretty cool.
Exactly. And like, we live in a society where everything is eventized and celebratory, and that is somewhat acceptable of a norm. It's like, hey, we're having a party for your birthday. We're having a celebration for your graduation. Everything, and it's all a social event. And generally when a social event happens, you have people, doing stuff outside of their normal day. Well, AJ wins this championship. Now, he did say that he did try to drink, and he's like, I was a little loopy, but that's just not him. So it wasn't gratifying to him. So that's why I look back and say, if winning the Super Bowl is not gratifying, And he says the grind is, if I'm going to put all this time in, then don't waste my time. Because he mentioned the one thing that was gratifying to him was spending time with his family celebrating the Super Bowl. Well, he's got to separate himself from his family to go play this game. And if I'm not going to be a part of the game, don't make me waste my time is kind of like how I see this. Now, that doesn't mean every week you're not going to have your time wasted. And that doesn't mean because he had 2 catches that it was a waste of time. Who knows what else he's doing? But that's why I go back to the targets. He had 9 targets. How did you run those routes? Because a lot of people who are watching those routes are saying he didn't really run those routes with a lot of piss and vinegar, So why? Why does he not like the routes? You can't have it both ways. If they're going to call a route for you, whether you like it or not, you better run it to the best of your ability.
Yeah,
that's
fair.
where what you would
good.
Right, that's where you would have a problem with AJ. Is if he's like, I don't like these routes, so I'm not running them the best way. That's where this would be on him, because you did get 9 targets. Why were those targets not fulfilled? Because you ran 10 the week before, and they were fulfilling to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of us leaves out the human element of AJ too. I mean, like, you don't become one of the best receivers in football without a certain approach, mindset, healthy selfishness and belief in yourself. And, the way they're playing right now doesn't really put AJ on a trajectory where, he'll be talked about as good as he probably believes that he is. And part of me understands that because, Mike, you keep bringing up how he's not fulfilled. I think everybody in some way can relate to that, where they have this picture of when they get to a certain place in life, whatever it might be in your own life, if it's a job, if it's money, whatever. And then you get there and you're like, man, it's not all it's cracked up to be. What's next? And I think AJ kind of went through that, and now he's at the point where,
this is where you see. This is where you see people who have ungodly money do stupid things, right? They have so much money, they get bored and they don't know what to do with it, so they do stupid things. That's where you see the societal breakdown of kids who have parents with a lot of money. They just say, instead of hanging out with their kids and doing something, here's money, go find something to do. And the kids say, I got all this money, so they're going to go do stupid things with it. And you get to a point where I'm not fulfilled by my goal. I thought it would be better than this. So now what do? I'm going to let people know I'm not happy about it. And that's why you go back to, I don't like the way he goes out on. I don't like, anytime we do a segment on my show every day called Nick's Nuggets. My man Nick is one of my producers. He's a young guy. So we try to bring a younger angle into the show. He brings these social media posts into the segment all the time. And I say, I just don't care. I don't care what you post on social media. I'm not going to sit here and read the tea leaves on these things. I just don't give a shit. Like, I don't care what you post. Yeah. But I get it. You have to look at it because that's what these guys are doing now. But most of the time, those things don't come to fruition. It just gets us all riled up to talk about it. And I think that's what they like. That
the classic, the classic so-and-so enter player's name has removed all evidence of their team name. That's a classic. I don't even know how you do that on social media. Evidently, they figured out how to do it. So you send a message that way. I'm with you. Anybody who goes to Instagram, that's how to keep things away from me, because I ain't going. Do whatever you want on Instagram. It's free. Somebody told me last night, hey, go check out Landon Dickerson. There's something going on. I'm flushing it out. Maybe it'll come to something. Maybe it's nothing. Go check out Landon Dickerson's Instagram. I'm like, I ain't doing that. I'm not going to formulate anything from somebody's
Instagram. I can get to. TikTok, I'm out. Once we get to TikTok, that's the level.
I'm like, I'll ask him the question when I see him. I don't need the Instagram story. But anyway,
I get it that's the world that we live in, where these athletes now have this platform where they don't want to tell John McMullen because they rather be passive aggressive. Because if I tell John McMullen face to face, he can ask me a follow-up and then another follow-up. And then I get Jeff McClain asking me another follow-up. And then I don't need any follow-ups. I'm just going to post my answer and you do what you want with it. It's a very passive aggressive way.
And that's fine, but the players should know they open it up to speculation. So anybody can take that AJ post and run
but
run in any direction.
He now has 72 hours to get his hands smacked, because he knows he's not going to get, what are they going to do to him, really? He's going to get it in a quick sit down with, this is how we're going to play this. You flash your smile and tell him that you sat with coach and you have a great relationship with everybody, and we'll throw you the ball 11 times this week and we move on.
No, I'm going to predict AJ has a big game. But, Mike, let's actually talk about –
This is a tough team to have a good game against. I'll tell you that much.
That's their 10. They got some good players. You're right. But I want to talk about what AJ's talking about, this offense, Mike. I mean, let's be real here. They got all these players. They got all this money spent on offense. They've been together. Now they returned 10 of 11 starters coming in this year. And we've had 2 great halves of football of the last 4 and 2 damn near historic bad halves of football in the last 2 of the last 4 as well, where they had -1 passing yards in the first half last week, and they don't complete a pass in the second half this week. You know, is AJ right? Last year, Mike, we went to the Super Bowl, and we did it in an anomaly way in the modern game by running the football, which the entire game is built to not do that anymore. I mean, every part of the legislation, everything they do is for the passing game. The Eagles do it in this anomaly way with a historic running season and pretty close to a historic defense. Right now, they don't have either of those 2 things. So if they're going to have late success in the year, what do they have to do differently this year as compared to what they did last year? That's where I think AJ might be right. I don't think you're going to just go to the Super Bowl this year if Saquon's not running the same way, if the defense isn't quite as good. You're going to have to make up for some of that somewhere. And that's where I look at the $55 million worth of receivers and say, yeah, they're going to have a bigger role. So I think he's right about that. Maybe I'm overstating it. How do you see it?
No, listen, last year, the whole year, we would say, and then everybody after the Carolina game got to a point where it was like, okay, what's holding them back? If you put any other quarterback in this with this group of, and I include the offensive line, because you look at what happens to these teams when they don't have an offensive line, they completely fall apart. You can have Joe Burrow with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but he can't stay healthy. And then the next guy comes in and he can't even get a throw off. I mean, Browning's so bad because that line, he is petrified behind that line. So it's not only that you have these weapons, it's that you also have the best offensive line in football. And that's where it is so hard to grasp why they struggle. And Petula's saying they don't know what their identity is. You've had the same group of guys on offense for 3 years now. This should be like rinse, repeat. And you don't know, and I get it, people evolve, and they scout you out, and they do things to take away what you do well. Okay, that's where you peel the onion and say, we've been doing this well, but we have this in our back pocket, which we know, because as Dallas Goedert and John, you echoed, they got plays in their playbook that have been sitting there for 4 years that they haven't used yet. So once they start to figure out these plays, it's time to now say, all right, we've been setting you up and setting you up and setting you up. Now we're ready to run this group of our offense. And we haven't seen that yet, because they should be able to have a Pittsburgh game whenever they feel like it. Whenever they feel like it. You see teams go up and down the field, zip, 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 zip. And now, one area where the Eagles are really good and other teams struggle is they zip, zip, zip up and down the field, and then they get in the red zone and they can't score. They kick field goals. The Eagles are 11 for 11. In the red zone.
The Eagles are so unique. It's
but they also lead the NFL, by the way, in 3 and outs.
Yeah, true. That's why they're
over
such a bizarre
45%. Think about that. 45%.
They're such a bizarre team. Like, Mike, you were the one who brought it up last week that got me on this kick. And I'm like, and you just said it again. They should be able to zip up and down the field whenever they want. Like, I think a lot of people, I'm not blaming you. I think that's a lot of people's mindset because of the talent. There's no evidence of that anywhere. But what they're great at.
No, but when they go tempo, football. When you see teams go tempo sometimes, I don't know, this is later in the game and defenses are kind of playing, but like it is just bang, 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 1, 2, 3, bang. You see Matthew Stafford, when he wants to throw the ball to Puka Nacua and get a completion, he's getting that completion. Now, he might not get it on third down and 7. Yeah. Right. He might not get it on 3rd and 7 in the biggest moment of the game, but he's getting it up and down the field all day long to put them in position to get that 3rd down and 7.
But that's Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. That's not how this offense plays.
He did do it against Vic too, by the way, John.
Yeah, he did it plenty. He did it plenty of times.
But that's the point.
But not in the key
situation.
situation.
People equate A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith on the same level, if not better than Puka Nacua.
Well, they are. They are individually. But this offense is not. And part of it is just the way they play. Part of it is not having a high volume thrower. God forbid I'll get thrown under the bus. They don't play that way.
Agreed. But that goes back to Zander's point. At some point, now, is it at some point like 1 week, or at some point meaning you're going to have to slowly start? Because I will say this, Zander, the Eagles signed Barkley last year, and I was really intrigued by all these running backs that were free agents. What were teams going to pay running backs? Well, Barkley got paid, Henry got paid, Jacobs got paid, and all these teams gave you small little hints that when teams are trying to defend all these quick little pass games, we're going to start running the ball at you. So you have these small little defenses, and now we have these power run games. You know, you go out and get these nickel corners and these smaller linebackers, we're going to get these bigger running backs and make you have to play power football with us. So you did see teams start to turn Derrick Henry, Baltimore, one of the best teams in football last year. Green Bay gets Josh Jacobs. That turns them into one of the better teams in football. Philadelphia gets Saquon. They become the best team in football. Austin Gentry gets drafted in the top 10. When do you see a running back now? So
right.
Teams are trying to say, you built your defenses to stop these spread offenses. We're now going to try to get a little bit more running attack, and you're going to have to find a way to stop us. Now, teams are finding a way to stop the Eagles' running game, and that lies the biggest problem of them all. If they don't have that run game, we talked about it last year. The Eagles needed every yard of those 2005 to be the team that they were. What happens if they only get 1,300 of those yards this year? Where are they getting those other 700 yards?
Well, this is what I don't like about the Eagles right now in terms of their mentality. And I appreciate that Nick changed to this at the bye week last year, and he's 20-1, so he's had no evidence that he needs to change. But what I will learn from 23, and I will not compare this year to 23, but what you can learn from it is don't let winning mask what needs to be fixed. And I also watched the Eagles come within a play of winning a Super Bowl without having this only run first team. Jalen Hurts was second in the MVP voting that year. So, like, there's not only one way for this team to win football games. And then I'll say this, and I want both of your guys' opinions on this, because it's kind of become a hot button topic with Kevin Patullo. And I don't fall in the camp of fire Kevin Patullo or it's all Kevin Patullo's fault. But I do want to ask this. At what point do we look and say, can there be at least a little more creativity? We bring up Sean McVay a lot on this channel. And Sean McVay, I agree with John and you, Mike, I think you had this take as well, where Sean McVay is a great offensive mind, but he struggles in some of the other areas as being a head coach. I agree with that. But one thing he definitely does do is it doesn't matter what a defensive game plan is. Puka Nacua is getting his catches. I mean, he's got over 100 yards in 3 or 4 games this year. You know, he moves them all around. And are they relying a little too much on the talent on A.J. Brown, where there's no creativity? You got to give your players an opportunity by getting more creative routes into the offense, doing different things to scheme A.J. Brown open. You can't have the same routes for 2 years straight and then just expect, okay, A.J.'s good enough, he's going to get open. And that's where I wonder on Patullo. Again, I'm not saying fire him or anything, but can there be a little bit more offensive creativity that gives your great receivers an advantage?
Yeah, it's almost as if the Eagles coaching staff is so enamored with the physical skill set of A.J. Brown that they just assume that he's going to win his battle every single time. Whereas Puka Nacua doesn't have the physical stature and traits that I have to be more creative to get him open to unleash these great traits that he has. Well, if the Eagles utilize A.J. in a way that these teams use their number one wide receivers, you probably would see. The big question is the Eagles – they went 2-2 to start the season, and that was in large part because Jalen kept turning the ball over. And then, as John, you've said, they pounded into his head. They pounded into not only into Jalen's head, their own head. They went up 18 points last week, and they said, we're not turning the ball over to let you get back in this game. You're going to have to score 3 times. You're going to have to go on, and we believe in our defense that you ain't scoring 3 times against us. So even if we have to go 3 and out 45% of the time and give you the ball back, good luck scoring 3 times on us if we get. And that's where you're up 18, and this is where AJ would be getting all these yards and big plays. They don't need it from him in that instance, and they built the lead up without using him. So That's where he got lost in the sauce. Although he got targets while they were up, and they were unfulfilled targets because I still contend that Jalen Hurts was living on another island at that point. However, they were up by 3 scores at that point. So they didn't need A.J. Brown to be a part of the offense. They built a lead up without A.J. and therefore didn't need to hold the lead with his help. And until that rubber meets the road, they don't have to peel that onion. And they would say, whenever we've had to do it, Rams game, we have it. Steeler game, we have it.
I will say this. And I'm not picking on Zander because everybody says it, but I hate that term creative. Like, weren't they creative with the push plays, the Dallas Goedert diamond formation play and the play to Saquon Barkley? Everybody's like, to me, it's the same thing as we say with play. You're not really talking about creativity. Most people, they're talking about effectiveness and efficiency and results. Same thing.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to my buddy in the text chain saying, if they're not entertaining, you can't push your way. That can't be your only way to win games. Is if, hey, we got to push because we're on the 3-yard line, but now we can score. What are you going to do when you're on your own 30?
Well, that's the craziest part of that. That's what's so weird about this team. You can point out to, as Zander did, the 3 and outs. It's ridiculous. There's so many 3 and outs. On the other hand,
I'll tell you real quick, John, they get the interception in the end zone. That last year ends that game. They get the interception. There's about 7 minutes left, and they run the game out, and the Buccaneers never get the ball back. They can't do that this year. That's where it's going to be interesting. They would take the last 7 minutes of a game, and it'd be over. They'd just run you out, and that would be it. It would be like an anaconda just slowly going around your neck, and then bang, the mouse is running around.
Well, definitely. They're doing it a different way. It's been so.
They're doing it in a way where they're playing with fire, where they go 3 and out, they punch you the ball back, and they're asking you to go the whole field. Now, Tampa Bay couldn't go the whole field, but they had a 13-play drive, and the Eagles eventually stopped them. But last year, they wouldn't have given Tampa the ball back with any chance to get back in that game.
Do they deserve credit for 11 of 11 in the red zone?
Sure.
This isn't, we were talking baseball, EPA, so expected points added for the nerds of the world. They're actually better offensively this year than they were last year, believe it or not, because of the effectiveness of the plays they do run correctly at this stage. They're still middle of the road, 14th, but significantly higher. And that's like a war stat. Somebody will come up with another stat that's more important. But right now, that's the one that's supposed to give you the best feel. And that factors in, Jalen Hurts is running in his legs and all that stuff as well. And stuff like that helps you understand why they're 4-0 versus 1-3 or 2-2 with the shitty raw numbers offensively, because the raw numbers look terrible. But then they have these little pockets of things they do really well. Nobody plays in the red zone better than the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody. To Mike's point, well, that's Mike's philosophy. If you're going 13 plays, we're going to make a play at some point, or you're going to buck it up, and you're going to go backwards, and you're going to have a penalty, and that's going to derail the drive. What he hates is those explosive plays they gave up, and he didn't even want to talk about them yesterday.
I like how you tried.
Yeah. He's so disgusted. He's so disgusted with them. He didn't even want to talk about them because that's the stuff that bothers him. But again, it's a weird offense. And until you embrace it, I don't think you're going to get past it. They're never going to be the high volume passing offense. I say it all the time.
I liken this era of Eagles football right now to the Tim Duncan Spurs. They were the best team. They were boring. And they were unapologetic about being boring because the guy in charge, Tim Duncan, didn't want to be exciting. He didn't want to be all that.
Fundamental. That was
he accepted that was their way to win, and that fulfilled him. And Hurts doesn't need to throw the ball 40 times. He might want to, but he's accepting of the fact that we're winning because of this is the way we're doing it. And I'll win by, I also liken him to the Florida Gators with Tim Tebow. There was no way Tebow was a great thrower of the football, but you believed every time they took the field that they were going to win because they had Tebow. That's essentially Hurts. You believe they're going to win because he's the guy that is the quarterback, whether through hell or high water. If he has to make the elite throw at the one moment he has to, he will. He might not make the elite throw in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, but damn it, if he needs it in the fourth quarter, he will find a way to make that throw. And you just believe because he's the guy. It doesn't mean he's the best. That's why these stupid lists have everybody crazy. Well, he won the Super Bowl. Where should he be? He should be, doesn't matter. He should be on the list of winners, not best talent, best this, that, or the other thing. So they are like this team that does things, as you said, Zander, they do it differently than everybody else. And they're saying, we're the best. Do it our way. If you can't figure out a way to do it our way and you can't beat us, we're going to be on top until you figure us out. And so far, 20 out of 21, and the only way you got beat is when Hurts went out of the game. They're figuring it out better than everybody else is.
The lows are too low, though, guys. They are. I'm sorry, but this is not. Look at this chart. Look at this chart on the screen right now. The Eagles are top 45, north of 45% in 3-and-outs this year. And then they get to the red zone, and they're one of the best red zone teams in football.
How many of those 3-and-outs are when they have a 2 to 3 possession lead?
I don't know.
There were five of them last week.
Is that not a lot of stress on your defense? Mike, you're going to sit here and rely on a defense that had 5 moving parts this year.
I don't say that I agree with it. I'm just saying their philosophy is, and this is why 2023 is different. Their defense then would give you points right back. The Eagles are saying, our defense is so good, you ain't scoring 3 times against us. They were up 18. That's 3 possessions. You are not getting 3 scores on our defense in a half. And that's what they think.
Well, they're certainly doing every opportunity to assist the other team by having 5 3-and-outs. I mean, that's brutal on a defensive line. I mean, you got Jordan Davis playing.
Especially in 100 degrees.
100-degree heat. I mean, it's amazing they held up the way they did last week. That's why
I didn't say it would be the way that I would do it. I didn't say it would be the way that I would get it.
No, I got you. I'm just, I think the lows are too low. Like, I get it. You're right, Mike, in the Spurs comp, but with the different variables this year, I think they're going to have to do some things a little bit differently. They're going to have to switch it up a little bit, and the lows can't be this low, man. The 2 of the last 4 halves.
Well, who's gonna stop this team right now? I mean,
that's the scariest part. Can you imagine what this team looks like if they are able to put it all together?
Here we go. Everybody's going to talk up Denver because they have a good defense and they have a good pass rush, and they do. But Bo Nix had a good game. He's been terrible early on this season. Finally broke out a little bit against a dead in the water Cincinnati team. That's the guy Vic Fangio beast on. Really?
Yeah.
Young quarterback.
He's erratic as a thrower. He's an erratic thrower, but I thought he played very well. But Cincinnati, you can't get any read on them. They're so bad. That's a tough game to get a read on. But yeah, if they
by the way, they have a good offensive line, very good offensive line.
Very good offensive line. The Eagles' schedule, they have the Packer game, and I said to you, John, I'm not as big on the Packers as a lot of other people were. To me, they're just a good team. They're not a Super Bowl team. When they got Micah Parsons, that got everybody excited, but their offense is just pedestrian. I mean, they're just okay. Their defense, they gave up 40 points to Dallas, and I know Dallas has a good offense. No CeeDee Lamb. You can't give up 40 to that outfit. That's terrible. That Packer team, to me, has always been a good team. I'm not saying they suck. They're good. They're not a Super Bowl team. The Lions, I think, have passed the Packers. They are dangerous again.
The Lions are still good, which I was a little bit concerned with the coordinators. But
yeah, I agree with you. And the first week when the Packers beat them, that was like, whoa. But the Lions have settled in. They have found their identity, right? Yeah. No Ben Johnson. We have figured out who we are without Ben Johnson now. But I think the Packers, Lions, that stretch. And then what's Washington going to be by the time you get to the end of the year? Right now, I mean, they
better hang in. They better hang in.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You just lost to Atlanta, who got beat 30-0 the week before to Carolina. So the Eagles stretch is really
you know better, Mike. It's a week-to-week league. I have really, and you know that, and you say that better than most. I mean, you can't. There's no transitive theory in the NFL. There really isn't.
No, there's not.
But I think, and listen, you could play a team that's 9-8. They get in and they play their best day of football on that particular Sunday. There's no evidence of why they would play it on that day against you, but it could come out at any time. Yeah. Right? It could come out at any time. But when you're, this happened to the Eagles a couple of years ago. It was the Foles year. I think it was 2019. They had lost 4 straight games, and one of them was to the Dolphins that year, who were tanking for Tua. And you're like, there's just no way. And I kept saying, yes, there's a way for them to get to the playoffs, because they showed you on their best night they could beat. And at that time, I think the Packers were like the best team in the league, and the Eagles had beaten the Packers. I think that was the game where Lori basically said, we won the game.
Why'd you run the ball?
Exactly. So that was that year where their ceiling was, we can beat the Packers, but their floor was, we could lose to the tanking for Tua Dolphins. That meant there was a lot of room in here for you to mess up every single week. The lack of consistency, and in the end, it ended up hurting that team. They get the drop pass from Alshon, and the rest is history. But this team here, very difficult to diagnose, because they don't do things the way that anybody else does. And I remember in 2023, in that 10-1 run, saying that the Eagles are saying, we will fist fight you. And if you don't want to take your gloves off and fist fight us, you ain't beating us. Until someone punched them in the face, the 49ers, and knocked them down to a knee, and they never got back up. Yeah. Which team out there is going to fist fight them and beat them at what they do? So far, the Bucs have tried on their home turf in 105 heat and failed. The Rams tried. They had them down. They couldn't put them away. You went to Arrowhead. That team's trying to avoid 0-2. They couldn't get it done. See if Denver can step up.
Yeah. At Mike Gill Show. We kept you late. I apologize, buddy. At Mike Gill Show on YouTube as well. Denver coming in real quick. Obviously, you can change on your show. It's early in the week, but I'm on record, Mike. I'm not picking against the Eagles till they lose, and that includes this week. But it is an interesting game because of the pass rush. The Eagles are struggling on the offensive line. Offensive line of Denver is better than most offensive lines the Eagles are going to see. So they have some things to work with. Sean Payton, Big Fangio has tons of respect for Sean Payton, by the way. So a lot of good things for Denver, but I'm still picking the Eagles. What's your early feel on the game?
Well, last week I took Tampa, and I thought it would be a close game. Tampa, late in the game, like we were talking about this on my Friday show. If they can get the game with a 1-score game late and wear you out with the heat and everything, that's where Tampa felt they had a shot. That's what Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles said. If we could be in the game late, we think we can wear them down in the heat and then take them. They almost had that game plan, but give the Eagles credit. They did not get worn down enough to give up that game. In this situation here, this Denver team feels like the kind of team that people don't know much about them. They're not flashy. They're kind of middle of the road playoff team, and they've been on the come, and they got off to a bad start this year. So now you really look at them even less than maybe you did entering the year, when you're like, hey, that's a playoff team. They're on the way up. And they lose 2 games that you're like, But this feels like the kind of team that can steal one in your building and then really get people asking a lot of questions. So I would not be surprised if Denver came here.
All right.
That being said, I'll take Philadelphia in an ugly one, like 24-20, something like that.
Good stuff, Mike. Appreciate you joining in, man. I want to read just one comment to you. Follow the Water says they play like the Spurs when they have the Kobe and Shaq Lakers roster. I think that's how many feel, because they're like, hey, we're not built like that team, but that's how they play. Mike, good stuff, man.
I don't say that I disagree with that. I question all the time how you are not more efficient offensively forget the receivers. You have great receivers, but forget those guys. With the offensive line that you have, you should be able to essentially pick and choose what style of play you want to play. And they have chosen they have chosen a style that is unaesthetically pleasing to many, unless it works. Because when Saquon's running for 2,005 yards, no one gives a shit that they're handing him the ball every single time. You have people that stand outside of the NovaCare complex
run
with
the ball
signs. And now people want them to throw the damn ball. It's a great world we live in.
Yeah.
Well, when it ain't working as good, it's going to be tough to do. We'll see what ends up happening. Mike, appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man.
Thanks, bro.